I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, it is visible.
Perfect. So, to start with our agenda for the day, we'll mostly be covering about guesstimates and how. So, we will be breaking a guesstimate or any analytical problem that we have into small bits, and what should be your approach while dealing with it. What is that the company or the interviewer or in general anyone who's being faced with a problem uh, usually looks out for, and some tips and tricks that might help you going forward. So to start with, if we talk about why guesstimates matter, so I think guesstimates is one of the key things that a company, especially consulting interviews, focus on, and it's because it gives a very good idea about a candidate's uh, you know problem solving skill. And problem solving is, when I say problem solving, I'm talking about how an individual can break a bigger problem into small chunks, divide and conquer, and come to a solution. And it's used in a lot of real world projects. So when you're faced with client problems, there are a lot of times when clients do not really know about the data, even the company doesn't know about the exact solution, so they do have to go by an hypothesis approach, and that's what we exactly do in guesstimates. Next, it talks a lot about your numerical skills, your structure thinking skills, your comfort level with numbers, how comfortable you are with numbers. So becomes really key, because numbers are sacred, as someone taught me. So numbers are sacred, and really defines your profit margins, your all of your basically business that the company is running on. And next, and the last one I would say, is your decision making. Once you are able to solve guesstimates, I think really helps you in making your decision faster and be more confident with scenarios all around. So ambiguity becomes, like one of your core strengths when you start to deal with guesstimates. So when we talk about a guesstimate, first of all, if I talk about what a guesstimate is for a lot of you who doesn't know, maybe, is it's sort of a question that asks you to make a guess about a certain quantitative figure. And it could be something like, calculate the number of burgers that are utilized or eaten in India in one day. Now, when you listen to that problem, it sounds like a very wide problem, and you might be thinking, how can we tell the exact numbers of burgers that are eaten every day? And that might change. So, what is the interviewer trying to see from that? And basically, what they want to really see is that, are you able to work under pressure when such a question or a problem arrives? Are you able to break the problem into multiple chunks? Are you able to come to a solution approach, if not a perfect answer? And are you confident enough to handle such situations? Right. So how you should approach such situations is, you first need to clarify and define the scope. So for example, when I talk about guesstimates, uh, you talk about things like number of burgers. So number of burgers, are we talking about burgers that are utilized in household, or are we talking about burgers in commercial chains? Are we talking about burgers in restaurants? So you can clarify these kind of questions. Are we talking about a specific region? Is it India? Is it Delhi, or wherever you are located? So it really helps you to define and narrow down the scope of your problem. Next is breaking down the problem into mutually exclusive or collective exhaustive components. What does this mean? That whenever you're trying to break a problem, the chunks should not overlap. So it should not be like that. If you're talking about restaurants, you're also talking commercial, and you're overlapping those situations altogether. You should be very clear with, I'm sorry, let me just turn off the notification once.
Yeah, sure, no problem, Nikhil. Yeah, Nikhil, are you there?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, so let's go where we were before. And so we were talking about what framework should you use. Now the next one is, whenever you're solving a guesstimate, you need to be clear on the assumptions you're making. So let's say you're talking about or trying to break a problem in terms of, okay, we have X number of people, these many people might be eating burgers, and these might people would not be eating burgers. So you cannot make unrealistic assumptions. For example, you cannot say that the population of India is, 5 billion, or you cannot say that, let's say the population of India is 1 crore. Right now, these kind of things would make you appear really, I would not say dumb, but not aware about the reality out there, right? So you would need to make assumptions that are real and that are believable. Second, next is we need to have simple calculations, round off calculations. So instead of calculating things in a way like 1.8, you can say 2. That would be fine. You do not need to be very, very pinpoint to the decimal places. It's fine. And at the end, what you need to do is you need to run through your approach and see if whatever results that you're getting, are they making sense or not. You need to have a sanity check into it. Before I go ahead, any questions that anyone might have?
No, sir, none yet.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with an example. The question is, how many cups of coffee are sold per day in India? And while it's mentioned that you can include cafes, restaurants, or offices, and there would be situations where you would not be asked to do so you can ask these kind of questions. But uh, let's see how we can solve this problem. So whenever there is a question about how many cups of coffee, how many cups of burgers, my go-to approach has always been to divide the answer or approach using population. So let's say in this case, we assume that we have 140 crore people in India who are living, and assume 30% of the population is drinking coffee regularly. Out of those, let's say some people have coffee one day, some people have two coffees, some people had 1 cup of coffee. So we can assume that, let's say, 0.5 cup of coffee was consumed by an individual, as an assumption. Now the simple math would be to take this 1.4 billion people, have 30%, and then multiply it by zero point 0.5, which will give you around 210 million as an answer. So as you see, we are not we're not talking about an exact number out here, but we're talking more about how we can divide a problem in population. We can have an assumption of these many people would be drinking coffee, and then multiplying it simply to get a number. Now this is a very simple example. There would be cases where you would need to go very much into the depth of the problem. So the interviewer can ask you about, let's just talk about the cafes, let's just talk about people drinking at home. So you can further divide the population by, okay, 30% is the total number, approximately 10% of that is being consumed at home, 10% at cafes, and 10% at offices. So you can further break down the problem. But this is how you generally go about a problem. Any doubts on this particular question that we just saw?
Nikhil, why have you taken 0.5 cups as an average consumption?
Okay, so good question. This is because, let's say, these 30% of the population that we have, not everyone, and this 30% is the one that consumes coffee regularly, but some people consume 2 cups a day, some people consume 1 cup, some consume even less than that, and there would be people who consume regularly but are not consuming coffee, maybe on a particular day. So for that particular reason, we have, for example, taken zero point 0.5 cups. This could very well be 1 cup. That should have been also all right. As long as you're able to justify your answer, you can take zero point 0.5, you can take 1 cup, you can take 1.5 cup. At the end of the day, you should be able to justify your answer. That's what matters.
Right. Thank you so much.
Oh, hello,
Hello,
hello. Yeah,
hello,
I
yeah.
want to ask, like, we categorize the number of total number of people into three different segments, like low frequency drinkers and high frequency and medium frequency, like that, uh, and then do the calculations.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a very good point. So, whenever you're solving any guesstimate, the more you are able to break a problem or categorize it into different sections, let's say, as you told, frequent drinkers, non frequent drinkers, you can divide, let's say, 30% are frequent, who would be consuming 2 cups a day. Then there would be 70% of people who consume 1 cup a day. So you can have an average of like, let's say 1.25 or something like that. And then you can also calculate. So the more you are able to go into details, the better. The only issue when you're going too much into the details is you might, uh, you know, get caught up in confusion of calculations or calculation errors. So while it's important to have a good approach, it's also important to have your calculations right. So it should not be that you're calculating 1.4 into 3 as something else while it should be something else. So just be mindful of if you are able to handle that much data. If yes, go ahead. That is just the cherry on the cake.
Okay.
Any other question before we move forward? And this time, I'd like actually you to answer one of the questions, and then we can see the solution to
Yes,
it.
sir. Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Sir, I wanted to know that how are we supposed to present our answer on the sheet that we'll be given? I think presentation becomes an important part there.
Okay, so what you can do is whenever you are having a question or a guesstimate, you can just, first of all, use a sheet, jot everything down. And whenever you're presenting, you don't need to present a sheet to the interviewer or the person on the other end. You can just go through the answer in a way, let's say, for this particular, let's say I'm answering this question. So how I would go about it is that the way I have approached this problem is using the total population of India. The total population of India is, let's say, 1.4 billion. Now, I'm assuming that 30% of the people consumes coffee regularly and averaging out each person. So similarly, you can just talk your approach. You can talk about the numbers. And it's very important to also ask the interviewer that, uh, is my approach fine? Is it making sense to you? There could be a lot of cross questions as well. And whenever usually you ask the interviewer about if my approach is right, they might even stop you in between and ask you to correct your approach in case it's not going fine. So it's always good to ask and just read out whatever you have written on your sheet.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, the question. Can
Anything else before we go forward?
Hello, I'm
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was saying that on 30%, like I said, it depending on it was given as a question, right?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you well. If anyone can rephrase that.
Hello,
Hello?
am I audible now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, so I was saying that 30% that is taken, it's been given or we have assumed. It's assumed, seems like.
It's an assumption. The only thing that we were given was this particular thing, how many cups of coffee are sold per day in India. This 30% is an assumption. It could be very well 40%, 30%. All that you need to take care of is, you would need to justify where this 30% is coming from. So if you ask me how I would justify that, I would say that majority of people in India are tea drinkers. There's a small percentage of people who drink coffee and other beverages. But there's a large population in urban areas that drink coffee on a regular basis. So it's a good assumption to have 30-70 as coffee drinkers versus non-coffee drinkers. So you need to back your answer by certain facts that are believable, and then yeah, you can very well take the assumption.
Okay, well, that answers my question. Yeah.
Great. Now, meanwhile, we can take more questions, but meanwhile, I'll just like to give you another question that you can think of. I'll give you 2 minutes. You can think of
Nikhil,
the solution.
Nikhil, let's have it in some other way. Let's do it in a mock interview, right? Kind of. So we have
Okay.
some volunteers who will be interacting with you as an interview, and you will be
Okay.
taking their interview. Okay. So let's do it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
First of all, do we have a volunteer for that?
Yes. So we have Shruti Priya. Shruti, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm in there in the meeting.
Yes. So
Hmm.
yeah, let's start with a mock interview. Nikhil will be taking your interview for this guesstimate. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Shruti, right?
Yes, Shruti.
Yeah. Hi, Shruti. So thanks for volunteering. Now, the problem that we have for you is what is the annual ticket revenue of a typical multiplex in India?
All right. So can I ask you a couple of questions regarding this multiplex?
Sure.
So where is it exactly located? Is it located in a like tier one city as such? Or
It could be located anywhere, but for let's say this example, let's say it's a urban city, like a urban area.
okay. It's not. All right. Hmm. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking for a moment.
No worries, no worries. Take your time.
Okay. So it's for annual, right? Wait, just noting that down. Mhm. Actually, I'm doing this interview for the very first time, so sorry if I end up making some type of mistake.
It's all right. It's all right. Just be comfortable and take your time. Think through it, and if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.
All right, thank you so much.
Nikhil, we can have another volunteer as well. So you can just tell the audience that what mistakes were for this candidate and this candidate. That will be a great learning for the audience, right?
Sure, sure. I mean, should we go ahead with the other candidate or wait for Shruti to complete?
Let's move with the other candidate. Mika,
Okay.
will you be volunteering for the same?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Mihika.
Okay, okay. Do you already have an approach that you would like to walk through?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult problem, and my approach states that uh, right now you cleared that it's an urban city. So, just to clarify, are we talking about the tickets, the movie theater tickets that are, placed in a multiplex, if I'm not wrong?
Correct, correct. We are talking about the cost of tickets,
Mhm.
and that are the revenue that's generated from that in a typical multiplex.
All right. So let us assume that there's a 40 ratio of urban and uh, rural people out of the 140 crore population.
Okay.
And so one thing, sir, I wanted to ask that should we like solve it side by side, or should I first walk you down through the approach?
Okay, so the way you should answer such questions is you should ask for a minute or so for your approach.
Mhm.
You should first get down your approach on a sheet of paper, do the calculations in it, and use that uh, to explain it. So your calculations should not be done during the explanation because you can make mistakes at that time. It's usually preferred to do it while you have taken that 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, so right now I should only walk you down through my approach.
You need to walk down the approach while you have after you have done your analysis. So you take a minute or so, you
Mhm.
write down your approach, you maybe write down the numbers, and then you can just tell me that okay, this is my approach, this is the number of people, this is the number of like the price of the ticket, and this is the total amount. So that's the way you can do. You need to present your answer in one go rather than doing it in pieces. Like first you are telling me the approach, then you're taking time for the calculations. So
All right.
do it in one go.
Okay, so sir, can I take a minute to like write down
Sure,
my approach?
sure. Meanwhile, anyone else who would like to share their approach?
Yes, Gaurav, go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Actually, I want to give the answer that can we, apart from calculating on the number of people, can we calculate on the number of seats in a multiplex?
Yes. Oh, okay. So two things. First of all, the approach of using population is one approach of doing things. It's usually very helpful because it helps you to have a fixed number to start with and then break it down instead of not having a fixed number. So you know that your numbers cannot go beyond this. But that being said, you can use any approach, you can use any assumption as long as it is fitting well. Secondly, for everyone, the question is about of the revenue of a single multiplex. So let's say if you're living in your area, there's a multiplex, how much revenue that multiplex would be generating, not across India. So this maybe makes the problem a little easier for everyone.
Okay, sir.
So can you go ahead?
By assuming a multiplex of my area, let's the multiplex have 150 of seats, and
Okay.
there are currently four so in a day. So 150 into 4, that is the 600 seats. 600 tickets should be sold in a day. And if we consider that approx 60% of the seats will be filled in one show time,
Mhm.
then our actual ticket sold will be 150 into 6, that is the 90 900 tickets, and daily revenue means 900 tickets into, let's assume the cost of one ticket at 200 rupees, then it's 1,80,000 for a day, and multiply it by 360 days for a year, 360 or 364 days for a year.
Okay. Thanks, Gaurav, right? So your approach is fine. A few things that you can do better, and maybe first of all, you mentioned 900 tickets. 900, I don't think would be the right number because you mentioned 150 seats and four shows. So that would be approximately 600, and 60% of 600 would be 360. So that would be 360 tickets. First. Secondly, in a multiplex, you usually have more than one shows running at the same time. So you can assume that you have not one show running at one time, but three shows, maybe, or four shows running at one time. And each show has 150 tickets. And then you can go ahead with the number. But talking of the approach, yes, it's coming out right. So you need to maybe practice a little more in terms of how you can break it down even further, and then you can do the calculation. But overall, it's pretty good.
Thank you, sir.
So can I go ahead with the approach?
Sure.
So I did is that I assumed India's population to be 140 crore, and then divide it into urban and rural with a 40/60 ratio. Now, assuming that the average size of a family is 4, so we have like 15 crore people, uh, which who are like going to movies, and out of that we have a 70/30 split for, who goes to watch a movie, say twice in 2 months, and 30% people goes to watch movie once in 2 months, and the average order value, like the average ticket price is like 400 for a family of 4. So it becomes like 15 crore into 4. That's the multiplex revenue, like in the entire urban city. But for a single multiplex, we can divide it by, say, like we can just take the 10% of the total revenue.
Okay. On this approach, since you mentioned urban and rural, uh,
Mhm.
which is fine, and your population division was fine. Can you walk me through the last part once again? The part where you divided 70/30, and post that, what were you uh, doing it with the numbers?
Right. So, all right. So, like a family of 4, we get 15 crore, 15 crore audiences who go to the movie theater. In that, we have some families who go to watch movie maybe once in 2 months, and the other families who go to watch movies twice in 2 months. So, like we have 70 for twice in 2 months, and 30 for once in 2 months. And we took that the average ticket price for a family of 4 is 400 rupees. So now we multiplied, because 10 crore people, that is 70% of 15 crore, are going once in a month. So we have like 10 crore into 12, into
Okay.
400, plus 5 crore into 6 into 400, and out of the, like, whatever total we get, we take maybe 1% or 5% for one multiplex.
Okay. So while your division for the population and everything was pretty good, uh, for these particular problems, what I would suggest is, instead of going by the population, you can talk about. So think it in this way: whenever you have a limited space, let's say a restaurant or cineplex, or any place where you have limited seats, it's best to go by the number of seats rather than going by the population in those scenarios. Okay. uh, so for example, in the last problem where we had coffee, or the number of cups of coffee consumed, in those scenarios you don't have a fixed space to calculate something in. In those cases, it's good you can use the population as a starting metric. In these situations, it's better if you use the closed space that we are talking about as a starting metric. So if we talk about the solution to this one, what we can do is, we can assume that, let's say, there are 5 screens in each multiplex, and there are 4 shows that run with 150 seats. And then let's say the occupancy is approximately 60% or 70%. And that would give you the total number of tickets sold. You can assume an average price anywhere 200, 300, 400. And then you can multiply it with 365 to give you, the total amount. So what this would do is, this would still break your problem into multiple segments. It would make your calculation easier, and there will be less confusion rather than going by the population that we had.
So
I want
what
to
I
ask
did.
one thing, like in this, like as you said, like in this approach, we like should be going with the limited seats, as like the seats are limited, like in the theaters. But as we see, like all the shows are not like houseful. So should we go with the number of seats, because in my opinion the population way would be more kind of practical, because the like all the shows may not be like house full, and like some may be empty, or like, so in that case.
That's the reason we have taken the occupancy as 60%. We are not taking it at 40%. Your population approach would also be fine as long as you're able to justify your answer. So it's not like there's a right answer or there's a wrong answer. It's more about whatever you are more comfortable with. But as you mentioned about the total occupancy, it might not be full all the time, or it would be empty in some cases. That's the way. That's the thing that we have taken. 50% or 60% of occupancy.
Okay, got it.
But it should
Nikhil,
not be. It should not be. Very. Unjustifiable. Let's say 10% occupancy. Now 10% occupancy is way too less, right? Or 100% occupancy or 90% occupancy. Again, it's way too high. So take something that's believable, and as long as you are doing that, it's fine. Sorry, you were saying something.
yes. So what I've done is I've taken the average occupancy as 30%. And when I did that, I found out the daily attendance, which is okay. So I've taken 5 screens, and 120. Just a minute. Yeah, 4 shows, 5 screens, and 120 seats in one screen, right? Then I found the daily attendance, which is 5 into 4 into 120 into 30%, which turned out to be 240. And then I took out the daily revenue, which is 240 into 250, which is an average price of one ticket. Then
Okay.
what I did was then I multiplied 60,000, which is the daily revenue, into 365. So it turned out to be 2 crores and 19 lakh rupees
Which
as
is
the
fine. Yeah.
revenue.
So instead of just taking 60% occupancy, you took 30%. In my
As an
opinion,
average.
30%. Yeah, as an average, I just feel it's a little less.
Less. Okay.
Be around 40, 50 at least. But
Okay.
otherwise, your answer seems fine to me.
All right. So thank you.
Anyone else who would like to share their views or their approach, or if you have any doubts on the problem, or just
I
anything with estimates.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to add one factor. Like, can we bifurcate into two parts, like for the non-peak and peak hours, and then calculate the occupancy, like, and weighted average of the occupancy, like.
Yeah, that's a very good approach, and this is something actually I do a lot. So I try
Okay.
to divide the day between peak hours and non-peak hours, and this can work with problems like number of cars going through a road, number of burgers, as I mentioned. So people would be eating more during lunch and dinner and breakfast. So those could be your peak hours. Similarly, people would be watching movies more towards the evening rather than the morning show. So you can take that as well, and that would be again something that will take your answer from good to great.
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like there's in both the approaches, if your answers are going to be matched, right, then I think you're in the right direction. That's what I feel like. In top to bottom
Yeah,
or bottom to top approach, right?
yeah.
If your answers are matching, then it means you have covered all the scenarios basically in both the approaches.
I mean, it's not possible to cover all the scenarios because it's not something that is bound by constraints. It's not something that you can just cover all the scenarios. But yes, as long as the answers are looking realistic, as long as the approach is looking fine, your answers are fine. And again, it's not about delivering the right number. It's about how you're breaking the problem. Are you able to think through the fact that you have 5 screens running, that you have multiple shows, that you have occupancy not at 100 but let's say 50%? Once you are able to include these factors in your answer, that will show the interviewer that you are able to think a problem more practically and not just on a theoretical basis.
Yeah, I mean your numbers should be nearby basically. If you feel
Correct,
it,
correct,
so it means that you are in the right direction.
correct.
yeah. Vaishnavi, do you
Would
have
you
any question?
Okay, if no other questions, would you like to have another question from my end and then we can discuss on it, or maybe you can pull up any doubts that you have?
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah,
Sir, I had a doubt. Can we go through the solution population wise? So, like, can we fragment into some limited number of people living in a society, and then we can fragment it into different income groups, like lower income group, middle income, and the higher population, and then we can multiply it by the frequency by which they go to watch a movie or so.
absolutely, absolutely, you can do that. And just to give you a little more flavor to what you just said, uh,
Yeah.
so in my McKinsey interview, I was asked about the question that how many people travel to Jaipur in a year, right? And that's again a very very wide question. This is what I did, as you mentioned. I divided the population in the income groups, in the frequency of travel, and then how many places do we have in the country that are hotspots, and how many people from outside would be traveling. So you can do that, and that's a pretty good approach in my viewpoint.
All right, sir. And then how can we like integrate it with the number of seats available? So like how can I integrate it with the average occupancy?
Average occupancy is something you do not need to think much about. It's a simple number you can take. So what you can do is, for example, let's if we talk about your question, that how we can divide. Let's say in a society you have 50,000 people and there is one multiplex. 1 out of 10 people would be going for a movie out there. Uh, how many seats are there? 150. 50% of is the occupancy. So based on these patterns, you can just come up to an answer. And it's okay, even if you don't up to an answer, it's okay to change it midway. Just let the interviewer know that I would like another minute, and you can do that.
Okay, sir. Okay. All right.
So what one thing with population is you can always use uh, probability of how many people would be going. So let's say 1 out of 10
Okay.
people are going for a movie each week is what you can say. Or 1 out of 100 are going for a movie each day. Something like this you can mention and then you can do it.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Nikhil, can we have another question quickly because I can see you're busy right now. Yeah. So we will just
No,
wrap
it's
the question.
yeah, sure, sure. This is the last question that we have for the session. And meanwhile, you guys are calculating it. Please come up with any general questions that you might also have.
Yeah, Dinesh, you want to continue, right?
Yeah, I can start with the
Please go ahead and interact with Nikhil.
okay. So the question is elevators in Mumbai, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And we can include like the residential and commercial buildings, exclude
correct,
buildings under construction.
correct, correct. I'm sorry for the
Okay.
pings. There's something wrong with my Windows today. But yeah, please continue.
Okay. Okay. So I will be like starting with the like approach where like I will be taking the population of Mumbai. So like let it be suppose 4 crores. Like I'm like assuming it. I'm not sure about it.
Hmm.
So let it be 4 crores, the population. And in this we can like segregate in urban and rural population because
Okay.
like we see that in the urban areas only the elevators would be there. So if we separate in the segregation of rural and urban population,
Yeah.
okay. So in rural and like urban population, in rural, like suppose it is more of kind of in Mumbai as it's a like metropolitan city. So the like population percentage would be in rural it is 40% and in urban it is 60% population.
Okay.
So in urban, like we have 60% of like 4 crore. So we will take this equation And in this, we will also segregate the residential, residential plus the commercial areas. Okay.
Okay.
So in this segregation, we see out of this, like we can take that, like suppose in residential areas plus commercial areas, so many people like would be there who work in a building, where there is a kind of elevator, and in the residential areas they have, so we can like segregate this population on the basis of like overlapping. So we can see like some of the population will have both the elevators in residential plus commercial area. That would be the first category. And the second category would be the people who only have elevators in the residential area. And third category we can segregate as people who have in their commercial area.
Okay.
And
Can you also talk about the numbers that you're thinking over here?
yeah, so in this I will be like assuming that out of the 60% of the 4 crore which we calculated of the total urban population, like in this, like out of the 3 categories, the overlapping we can take as suppose 20%, and the rural and the like only residential we can take as like suppose 30%, and the other 50% we will take as the commercial population.
Okay.
So after this segregation, like we will have with the total population in the 3 different categories. Okay, so after this, we can assume, yeah. So after this, we can assume like out of this population, like suppose, like in the commercial sector, if we take of the commercial tech, sector, so in that, like if we have this total population, like suppose we have the X of the total population. So in this, we see out of this, 10% of this we can take as like elevators, because I'm like assuming it because I'm not sure with my
Mhm.
approach for right now. So I'm
Okay.
assuming that 10% of this 50% of the commercial area population, 10% would be the elevator number, would be the elevators.
Okay.
And in the rural, and in the residential part, which was the 30% of the total population, like here we will assume that, again, we will assume it at 10%. And in the combined one, we will take as like suppose 5%. So after this, we can like sum like all the 3 the values which we will be getting. Thus, we will be like getting into a conclusion of the number of elevators.
Okay. Okay, I think your approach seems fine to me, where you're trying to divide the population in urban, rural, residential, non-residential. Uh, the only thing I would, ask you to do is try to be a little more clear with the numbers, so it doesn't become a little confusing for the person on the other end. Apart from that, uh, just come up with a number once you are done telling the approach, and I think it should be fine.
Okay,
So can
got
I
it.
go ahead?
Sorry, Mika.
Can I also like go ahead with the approach?
Sure, sure.
All right. So before that, I would like to ask the number of buildings that we can assume in Mumbai.
Okay.
No, like
Or
okay. In this case, should I ask the interviewer, or like how should I? Because I don't know the number and I want to know the number of buildings in Mumbai.
Okay, so the way you can talk about the number of buildings is taking the total population of Mumbai or Delhi. Let's say if I talk about Delhi, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if there are 2 crore people in Delhi, we
Hmm.
have an average family size of 5. So that would become 40 lakh families. You can talk about that each building at an average have 5 houses. So 5 houses would be approximately again, somewhere 8 lakh buildings. So there are approximately 8 lakh buildings. Out of 8 lakh buildings, you can talk about, let's say, 30% of them or 25% of them have elevators. So it would come around 2 to 3 lakhs. So that's how you can do. In this case, population is very, is a key thing that you can use to see how many families or how many buildings do we have. So yeah, you can divide the population in family. Each family has one house. One building has approximately 5 houses, so you can just use that.
All right, because I divided it into like residential buildings and commercial buildings, and then residential buildings further into like 30% and
Yeah.
70%. So 30% would have one elevator, and 70% do not have an elevator. And then in the commercial building, I divided it further into three parts: large commercial buildings, like Cineplex or malls, then medium, and then small. So the large ones will approximately have, on an average, three elevators.
Mhm.
The medium one will have like one elevator, and the small one will have none elevators. So in this way, I wanted to know, like, how should we assume the initial number of buildings so that I can further divide it into residential and commercial?
You can talk about, so the way I talked about total residential buildings as 8 lakhs, you can assume 20% more buildings as the commercial buildings out there.
Okay, so random assumption I can make
A
here.
random assumption you can take. If there are more questions from the interviewer, you can justify that, 1 out of 4 or 5 people go to office. So you can use that assumption as 20-25%.
Okay. Otherwise, was this approach correct? Like better than the last one
Yeah,
that
this
I
is
did?
absolutely. I think this is good where you divided residential and commercial buildings and then assuming you have more elevators in a commercial building versus residential. So this should really work well as long as you're able to have a number in front of the interviewer.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, Nikhil, before we wrap up this session, could you share some?
Wait, sister, we have to
Yeah.
raise them. Diksha
All
and
right.
Anand, please unmute and ask a question.
Hello everyone. Oh, sorry for my voice. I'm having a sore throat.
No
I
worries.
wanted to present uh, um, my approach. So, like, if I could start.
Yeah.
So, I thought like we have 2 crore population residing in 20,000 houses, and like crore population can be divided like residential and commercial. And in residential, we have some houses like chawls or with buildings that have no elevators, and there are some buildings with elevators. And in commercial as well, let's assume like there are some buildings with elevators and some without elevators. So if we give an equal percentage, 25% to each, then we'll be left with 50% with elevators. So we can say 1 crore population can be resided in 10,000 houses. So if each house has one elevator, and each commercial building has 3 elevators, so we can go ahead with this number.
Most of the things with your answer is right. The only thing I'm little confused about is you mentioned 20,000 houses for 2 crore population. How would you justify that?
I assumed that actually.
So if you try to fit in 2 crore people in 20,000 houses, that would be, thousands of people in one house, which is not feasible, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's something you would need to come up with a more precise assumption. And hence, these are the kind of questions that the person on the other end can ask, that how are you assuming 20,000 houses? But
Okay, sir,
otherwise,
I'll work on it.
but the breakdown was fine.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah, Anand, please go ahead with your question. Yeah, you can unmute Anand, right?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, Anand, please go ahead.
So I assume that there are like
Anand, there is some disturbance at your end, I guess. We're not able to hear you well.
Yeah, let's move to the another question, Nikhil. Anand, fix your internet once and come back with your question. Meanwhile, Ishita, you can ask your question.
Hi, Nikhil. Actually, I thought of another approach. So, can we go based on the area? Like, if we know that if Mumbai covers 600 square kilometer, and in that we could divide based on the tall buildings or commercial building and the slum area, and then further divide that if a residential has a assuming one elevator and commercial two. So, can we calculate in this way?
Absolutely, and I think you might just get a few brownie points for the fact that you know the area of Mumbai or Delhi for that reason. So that would be an added impression on the interviewer. You can definitely go ahead.
Actually, most of the answer were based on population, so I just want to
Yeah,
get
I mean, population is one framework that makes it easier. It's easier to remember because 1.4, 2 crore, these are numbers that are easier to remember. But if you know any other numbers that could be helpful, feel free to include them.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Ishan, if you have question, you can unmute and ask. Otherwise, Preeti, you can ask your question.
Hi. Okay, so my approach was very simple. I took the population to be 2 crores. Then I divided it by number of households and took an average of 4 people in a household. So total households were 5 crores. And then I assumed that 30% of the people are living in buildings which have access to elevators. Then after that, I switched a little, and then so what I did is basically I thought a building has 10 floors, and it has 40 flats, 4 flats per floor. So a total of 40 flats in a building. Then we already had like 1.5 million households which had access. If we divide the 1.5 million by the 40 households in a building, we get around 37,500 buildings. And let's say there are 2 elevators in a building. So that gives us 75,000 elevators in Mumbai.
Yeah, that works fine. I think it's very similar to what I told. So I think dividing it by families and then elevators, it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my approach was more on like the cities. Like I had divided these, like assuming the cities on like their population and like their urban metros on the buildings, by the way. Like I have taken an example, like an assumption that if there are 100 buildings and each have like 2 elevators, and considering there are 14 urban metros, so I have taken on this like an Indian level, like a country level. So with that number I have taken, and it's around so it's coming around 28,000 elevators for urban metros. For semi-urban, I have taken 500 buildings with 1 elevator each, with like 180 cities in India. So that comes around 90,000. And for the rural cities, I have taken around 50 buildings with, and there are number like the rural cities are like 1,050. So, and based on like 1 elevator each, I have taken that number as 52,500. So the total comes at 1,70,500 elevators in India. So, like, is this approach workable?
So you're talking about India, right? The numbers that you have assumed for elevators, how have you assumed those numbers?
So, yeah, I just
have you also multiplied the number of rural areas you might be having in India?
Yeah, I have like for 50 buildings for 1,050 rural cities across India.
Okay, so I just feel the numbers are too less. You mentioned 1.75 lakh elevators. In India, that's way too less. I think maybe you can quickly go and check a realistic number on Google or ChatGPT. The number
Right.
should come out really high.
Mm.
We assumed around 2 to 3 lakh elevators only in one city. So 1.75 in India is definitely very less.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll refine my
Yeah.
process.
Okay. Apologies, but I would need to drop now. But before I think going, I just hope the session was insightful, if
Yeah,
not
thank
too
you.
much, but
Yeah,
a
thank
little insightful. Yeah.
Yeah, just 1 minute, Nikhil, if you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
time. So thank
Absolutely.
you for
Absolutely.
joining the session, and it was really interesting and interactive. Okay, so I know you're really busy, but just can you spare 1 more minute to just share your interviews experience at McKinsey and Bain, just in 1 minute?
Absolutely, no worries. I can spare a few minutes. So, my experience with McKinsey and Bain, I think if I have to highlight uh, what's common in between those interviews is first your presentation, your communication, and how well you are able to solve a problem, right? And when I say problem, every problem that you have out there, you can assume it as a guesstimate, right? So I think one way to really train yourself for interviews is work on a lot of guesstimates. The more you'll work on guesstimates, the more you will become comfortable with numbers. What's the best way to see guesstimates? You don't need to go to Google or ChatGPT to find questions. Let's say you're sitting at a metro station, you can just ask yourself how many people would be traveling by metro in a day. You are maybe drinking water, you can ask how many bottles of water would be getting sold in my city, right? So just think about a random scenario, start solving it. Talking about what was done in my interviews, it's mostly they mostly try to judge on the basis of how well I am when it comes to solving problem under pressure. So like we were having mock interview today, and I was very lenient. I would say it's not so lenient all the time. The interviewers will definitely help you out, but they would also cross question you a lot. That's what happened in my interview. All you need to do is you need to keep calm. You need to be very sure of your answers. Be confident about your answers. Whenever there's a mistake, do it, accept that. And because I also made mistakes, and my interviews were not without mistakes as well. So there were mistakes, but at the end of the day, it's about are you able to accept it and correct your answers? If yes, the interviewer on the other end would be really impressed with that as well. And I think everyone, if you want to get into a consulting firm, needs to work on is your communications, because I think communication skills really makes or breaks your interview. It really sets the tone for your interview in the very first 5 to 10 minutes. So just start with communication, trying to not say the right thing, but also saying it in a concise manner really helps.
Great perspective, Nikhil. Thank you very much for joining the session, and I will connect with you, Nikhil, on LinkedIn for other processes. Thank you, Nikhil.
Thanks,
Have a great
everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nikhil.
Sir, I wanted to like ask one thing. Can I?
Yeah, Dinesh, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go
Actually,
ahead.
I wanted to ask that like while solving a guesstimate, like when the interviewer like asks us the question and when we like start with our approach, so should we just continue speaking and like conversing with the interviewer like all the way solving, because like many a times like we also need to think on the like on the way of solving our question, so we also need a bit of time to think. So should we pause that time, or like should we just keep on a bit conversing with the interviewer?
No, as Nikhil mentioned in the during the session, that first ask your clarifying question and then take 2 to 3 minutes for writing down your approach along with the calculation. So while you are writing your approach, write the calculation as well as long with the approach, okay, on the paper. And once you start speaking, speak your approach along with numbers. That after applying this, the step one, you got this number, then step two, this number, step three, this number. So that will make your interview more better. Okay.
Okay, got it. So we can take a few minutes to like
Yes.
process our thinking, right?
Yes. Yes. Process
Okay,
your
got it.
thinking
Thank
as
you.
well as calculate your all the numbers. Okay. This
Got
will
it. Got
save
it.
your time.
Should we also say to them our like approach and like our calculation that we are like multiplying this number with
Yes.
this? Like, we
Yes.
should
Yes.
be saying that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dinesh. Have a great day, everyone. I will be ending this call.